Powered by Riverside FM.
Running again, Christian my brain with the candlelight. Losing my breath, losing myself, dreams are out of sight. Stop struggling against my demons. Stop thinking life as fiction. Burn the pain, burn the lies,
All right, welcome back to another exciting episode of the podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Chantal and I am from the Maritimes of Canada.
How are you today?
I am doing great. How are you?
Doing good. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, I've been wrestling for close to 5 years. I've also been doing dog rescue for about 2 years. So I try to, in some way, combine the two together, kind of like, reach people and like educate them more about dog rescue and all that through wrestling. And my day-to-day life, I am a personal trainer.
Very cool. So how did you get bitten by the bug, so to speak, for becoming a fan of wrestling?
Well, I have an older brother, so whatever he did, I wanted to do, follow him with his friends. So I think I was 7 when I first started watching it with him. And I remember like coming back home from dance classes, like on a Friday night or like, and just being excited to watch wrestling. And yeah, so I just was really amazed with it, like the whole show, the whole characters and all that. And then I just never stopped watching it ever since.
So, tell me about your journey to become a wrestler.
Well, where I'm from, it's a very small town, which there was never local shows, like even close to my area. So for the longest time, I didn't even know that it was such a thing, like independent local wrestling was a thing. And it wasn't until about 5 years ago when I moved for bigger opportunities, like, like work-wise and all that, in a more bigger city. And then I started going to all these local shows, and next thing you know, I was driving like 2-3 hours to like go attend a show because I loved it so much. And I noticed that there wasn't very many female wrestlers in my area, and I was like, well, why not? So I joined. I was a dance teacher all my life, and I actually thought that this was my true passion, like being a dance teacher. Like I loved it. I still do. But when I first started training for wrestling, it just felt so right that I was like, so it wasn't actually that, it was this.
So, during your training, who did you train with?
So his wrestling name is Brody Steele. His name is Peter Smith. He has been wrestling for, oh my goodness, 20 years. He's traveled so many places. So he really taught me like the old school way of pro wrestling, which now I'm trying to learn the new way, like the indie scene that you see locally. So I'm trying to transition like everything that I've learned into new things that I haven't done in the ring back then.
So, what was it like to take your first bump in the ring?
It was scary. It was very scary. The thought of just throwing yourself on what is under that little mat, it's just, are you sure? Like, am I not going to hurt myself? And it's just so scary. But there's always little ways and tricks that people give you to just go and do it. And then once you do it, you're like, oh, it wasn't too bad. But you obviously feel it the next day. As you take your bumps, like matches after matches, you don't feel it as much. Obviously, your back is constantly hurting you, like from day to day. But it just, in the heat of the moment, you have such adrenaline in the match that it doesn't bother you then.
So, what was your first match experience like?
Well, I would say I got very lucky because the only local girl, when I first started, she took me under her wing. Her name is Madison Miles. So even before I started training, she would bring me to a ring that she had access to close to her home, and I would spend weekends there and just really, we would work on some things. So we had practiced a little match, and halfway through my training, Brody Steele was like, "We are having a show. We're missing one girl. You're gonna have your match with Madison." And I was like, I was not prepared for this, but all I could think of was, "Hey, every time that we went to the ring, we practiced that little match. Well, we're just gonna do that." So, unlike some other people, they don't know what they're doing. They're like, "Hey, my name is." They meet their opponent the first time and then they talk about it. I was really prepared for my first match, so I consider myself very lucky for that.
Very cool, very cool. So I have to ask, as far as the wrestlers that may have inspired you, who are they?
I think character-wise, like when I was younger, I was really drawn to Chyna because all the other women was like there with their bikini, you know what I mean? So I was, I thought she was cool. Like I really, really liked her, which is kind of like who I am in life. Like I'm not a baby face, you know what I mean? Like even when I'm a baby face in a match, I'm not like, love me, like not at all. I'm just like, hey, fist bump, you're cool, I like you. So it's just who I am, that I grew up being. But wrestling skills and everything, entertainment-wise, was Macho Man. Definitely one of my top favorites.
Yeah. And I can see why, especially like Chyna, why she was an inspiration, just because she was different. It's not something you were or you're used to seeing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I always thought it was cool because I grew up during the Attitude Era. How she would wrestle anybody. She didn't care.
Yeah.
So that was definitely
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely different and unique. And I don't think there's really been anybody on that level since her that's done what she's done.
Right. I mean, there's phenomenal athletes, like whether it's male or female wrestlers now. There's like so much talent in this business. But she really, she was the first female. She really stood out.
Yeah, and I like to see more women doing the type of things that you guys are doing, just because I find it a bit more entertaining when you see women wrestling more so than men now, just because the storytelling skills are there, and it brings you in, because not only is it something that if you're a wrestling fan going back into the 90s that you didn't really see, but I think their matches are more entertaining, so to speak.
Yes. No, I agree. It's just last weekend we went to, I love going to places that never has wrestling because they're so into it, because they're not used to seeing a live show. And I was wrestling a guy and I won, and all the little girls, they were just like, "Hi, you beat him, you beat a boy." And I was just like, "Yes, I did it for you." Like, it's just so cute. Like, you just like, the emotion is everything. They're so like amazed. You're like their hero in that moment. So it's really nice. I love it.
Yeah, and it's the women's revolution is definitely still on the uptick.
Yes. Oh yes, absolutely.
So within regards to the indie scene, I know since AEW's come about, the indie scene's grown quite a bit. How is it working in the indies?
Well, right now, actually, this year was my first year that I really went plenty of places in Canada outside my small area. when I first started, I was like, you know what, I'm perfectly fine just doing this in my home area. No, you get the cure. You're like, the more you do it, you're like, okay, what's next? What's next? You know. So even though like it's been about 4.5 years, like I did it mainly here, but this full year, like I went like in all other provinces, like Ontario, like out west in Quebec and all that, and I really enjoy it. I really, really, really enjoy it. It's just really different. And then this coming year, I want to focus more in the United States, or like somewhere else as well. But the United States are like my goal for like this coming year.
Definitely, definitely. So, as far as the progression of your career, where do you see yourself ending up as far as whether it be indie scene or, wrestling for, whether it be the, like New Japan or WWE, AEW?
Right. Before anything, I really, really want to go to Japan. Either at a dojo or just like go there for a month and learn, or like longer. That's definitely one of my goals. This coming Sunday, the Mount Rushmore?
Yes.
Okay, so he has a competition right now. So this coming Sunday, I'm part of a tag team match this weekend. And out of that whole match, Cutie Marshall is going to watch through via Zoom, and he's going to pick 2 out of us 4 for their debut show in Canada in October for a dark match. So 2 out of 4 of us in our match. So that's pretty cool. So I'm like, fingers crossed, that'd be great experience, like an amazing opportunity. So I'd be looking forward if that happens.
That would be extremely amazing.
Yeah.
So, within regards to possibly, coming down to the States, are there any wrestling promotions that kind of pique your interest that maybe you'd be interested in working for?
GCW has been, piquing my interest a lot. Other than that, just any local independent promotions. Like I go on IWTV a lot just to know all these promotions, just to get familiar with them, which area has what promotions, so that way I can like slowly reach out to them. But yeah, GCW has really piqued my my interest. I really really enjoy watching the shows, and it's they're pretty big.
Yeah, I've noticed over the past couple of years they've grown quite a bit.
Yes.
And you hear a lot about their promotion and then the wrestlers that they have. Yeah. And I know, was it Nick Gage is kind of like, I guess, sort of like the patriarch when it comes to GCW.
Right, yes. And you see Joey Janela a lot.
Yeah, and of course you've got a few ex-WWE wrestlers in there, like Matt Cardona. Yep. And, I like the way the indie scene's going as far as companies like GCW, OVW, and things like that they're getting bigger, and which is great because then you have not so much competition, but you have all this talent that
exactly that promotions that are succeeding more than they were. So I love that for them. That's what this business needs, is way more promotions that are doing great.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And, I think as things progress, it would be really cool, if you're not in a certain area, that you could see other promotions too and get to know other wrestlers.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that'll come eventually.
Oh, yes, absolutely. By the way, if you're hearing a dog snore, he's just next to me. I have 3, so it's kind of hard to, like, have them not everywhere.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've got 3 as well, and they can be a little wild.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So, are there any wrestlers that you would like to be in the ring with?
I always answer this question with this. Toni Storm is on top of my list. Toni Storm for sure. I like her in ring skills. I like who she is as a wrestler. I've always watched her wrestling, and yeah, so she's definitely on top of my list. Maki Ito as well.
Very cool. So, with a lot of the stuff that is out there now, do you think that with all the content, whether it be the mainstream or the indie scene, that it's too much, or do you think it's a healthy amount to keep things not only creative but definitely very competitive?
Yes, so it's extremely competitive. And I've already quoted that, but Alex Shelley said it best. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and it's because of the grind. Not because, like, people are jealous or whatnot. Like, it's like that in little, small areas. But in the whole indie scene, I feel like it's just the grind. Like, there's so much talent that people, like, it motivates them to become the best version of themselves as a wrestler. So people work so hard. So you have all these amazing, talented people that just works their butt off, and I think it's good because it makes people push themselves to their limits, and that's how they get closer to an opportunity. If it's not with this big company, it's with this one. So I think it's really good.
The way things are right now with the state of professional wrestling, it kind of reminds me of the 80s when you didn't have all these big promotions and there were so many different territories out there.
Right. Yes.
So, I think you're right. I think that it's in good health, and competition for everyone is good because it strives to make that one person or that company better.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I ask everyone this that I talk to that's a wrestler or wrestling fan, but if you had a Mount Rushmore of wrestlers past, present, who would they be? And it can be a combination of things.
I've never actually sat down and thought of that. That is a really good question. I don't know. Like, I mean, I could answer that now, but it probably wouldn't be like my exact thoughts or like really, putting some thought into it. So that's a really tough one.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, it's like, oh shoot, I should have really thought about that before. But yeah, there's so much talent that I'm sure that I'd be like, oh no, actually this person. Oh, so yeah, it'd be very difficult for me to answer that right now, just right off the spot.
Gotcha. So, what events do you have coming up?
So the Jacques Rougeau competition this coming Sunday on the 28th. And then a few local shows after that. At the end of September, I am going to Vegas. And then from there, I'm going to the Inoki Dojo. That's in California. So we're going to go and train there for a bit. They're amazingly talented, like high flying and all that, which is not my style, but I am like open to learn all styles. So I'm very, very excited for that.
Very cool. So I know you're on Instagram. Are you on any other social media?
Yes. So Instagram, Twitter, and even TikTok, all three have the same handle. So it's SVG, that stands for Savage, _ Chantal. And Chantal is with an AL at the end, not an EL. Everybody does that.
I did that when I was setting up the...
It's the way that English people say it, like say it out loud. But yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you is, as far as wrestlers, it almost seems like the most talented wrestlers seem to come out of Canada. I mean, I know we have some from Japan, but you look at all the most successful people like Bret Hart, Chris Jericho, they all come out of Canada. Why do you think that is? Because I know wrestling is huge in Canada in certain spots.
I don't want to say that's what it is, but if I'm thinking out loud here, I feel like because there's so many promotions in the States, and there's probably just as many schools, it is very, very accessible for anyone to join. Whereas opposed to in Canada, I feel like there's less school. And I'm not saying that in the States, like, if you're not ready, they're still going to throw you in the mash. But I've seen a lot of schools down here that's like, I know you paid for your fee, but you're just not ready. You can't have a match. Like, you need to, to train another 6 months. So I really don't know if that's the thing in the States. I'm just thinking out loud. But whereas to the fact that there's probably not as much wrestling schools down here, coaches and trainers can probably be picky as to who they choose in their class, or have like an ability test, or like, so other than that, I can't, I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. It's been a lot of fun. I've definitely learned more about the indie scene in Canada, and I'm excited to hopefully be able to see you wrestle, even if it's on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We'll have to do it again.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Well, I hope you have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You as
All
well.
right. Take care.
Bye-bye.